Hello and welcome to the demo video for Jam Sessions. The team that I'm representing is Edward Latta, Logan Talkington, and Mike Clancy. I am Logan. This is an introduction here, so this is our landing page. As you can see, there's everything you need to land. You can go to the application once you're signed in, and you can also log out here as well. A little introduction about our application. It is a web app for musicians to find others who want to be able to play music together. Our team, all musicians, like to be able to play music or just enjoy music in general, and that's why we have a unique perspective to be able to say that our application helps make jam sessions easier to find for all musicians in general. And with that, team highlights, we learned about full stack development, AWS, Agile project management, and we built a product that can be logged into and shared to others, which is, I think, really critical and awesome. For that, the jam sessions here, this is one of the main pages, and as you can see, there's the requirements where you can see the location, you can see what is needed, and a little more details about it. And with that, you can see if there's a price, so sometimes people are going to be willing to pay you for meeting somebody. So hey, like this, you need a singer, and the singer's going to pay, they're going to pay $8 per time, which would be a pretty cool opportunity, and I think that would allow a lot of people to be able to play together, which is part of the reason this application is created. The user profiles, so you're able to search user profiles and see other ones, and you can see the skill level, you can see the fees, you can also see the locations, and a little blurb about them, the instruments, like genres and dislike genres, with reviews about how they are to work with. But one of the main features of this whole application is a timeline. As you can see here, you can see that they have little blurbs, like kind of like Twitter, and the rocks are likes, and the comments are comments. And the videos, you can post videos of yourself playing, your band playing, or just videos in general. The messages here also work pretty well too, where you have the opportunity to send a message to somebody else that you want to connect with, and you can say, hey, how are you doing? And then you can reply, send them a message, and it kind of goes down in a cute-like fashion where the newest ones are up here and the oldest ones down the bottom. Development here. And then pretty much what I did, I managed the front-end React code and built several of the front-end features. The landing page, sidebar, 404 page, and jam sessions are the highlights of what I did. Organized folders between components and pages, led efforts for the AWS integration of front-end deployments. So I managed all of the AWS, Amplify, EC2, and RDS. And then also I created the Webflow that we had here when I designed pretty much everything that went on inside the app. Integrated the API calls into the front end pretty much for majority of the front end calls, and also managed the AWS features. Some of the challenges I had here were AWS. While I do some work in AWS, it's a little bit hard at times to be able to learn to do everything from scratch and get it all working properly, including the EC2 server from our server. That was a little bit of a challenge, and also integrating user auth across the whole application. So whenever somebody uploads a post per se, you're able to upload the correct user ID and make everything work properly. Some of the technologies I use: Node.js for the front back end, React for the front end, Auth0, and Amazon Amplify, RDS, and EC2. And now on to Edward.
So my main responsibilities were mostly maybe 70-30 split, back-end work. So organized, back-end, the server code to kind of separate out the route handlers and the actual database query functions, and keep that out of the actual server file itself. Organized our route endpoints into more of a RESTful API. Kind of developed most of the user authentication flow, making sure that only authenticated users could access certain pages in the app, that sort of thing. And then I did a little bit on the front end as well, as far as creating like the user and the user profile entries, making sure that it can pull those out of the database and generate those pages dynamically, that sort of thing. The technologies we used in the module, the server was running in Express. The PM2 module was a nice one for restarting anytime there was any kind of a change to the deployment or a crash, that sort of thing. Obviously, React to the front end, Auth0 for the user authentication. The database is, I think, an Amazon RDS database, so kind of working with all those technologies in this. As far as kind of the plan, order of operations, that sort of thing, I tend to go from the data toward the front end. So, figure out what data do we need to store, how do we need to manipulate it, build out queries and routes to handle those requests, And then kind of jump to the front end, built a user login flow, and then figured out how to connect that logged in user to their data in the database, that sort of thing. As far as challenges, one of the big ones is React. I'm not terribly fluent in front end and React, so I do the best I can. The solution I ran into is I traded some of the front end tasks that I was initially assigned to my teammates for some more back end work, so that made it a little bit more efficient in terms of everyone's time. And then Auth0, it was really kind of my first time digging into that. I haven't taken cloud development as an elective, so I just spent a lot of time with the tutorials, the documentation, the online guides to get all that to work. And what did I learn? A whole lot about best practices for the user authentication, authorization, and implementations. The one thing I would love to do is to have a little bit more time to go back and really implement protected API routes using the JSON web tokens and passing those back and forth in the headers to really validate calls to the API. That would be a great add-on.
As far as my part of the project, like my other team members, I worked on both the front end and the back end to help get the project up and running. My specific contributions included work that was done on the front end for the settings page, the user profile, the jam sessions page, and the search page, and work on the back end for the CRUD functionality of the media, post, reviews, messages, and jam sessions entities. Beyond that, I contributed to the group project submissions and helped organize the project by creating the project board in Trello and a shared Google Drive folder to hold our files. Since everyone had a hand in the different parts of the app, I used the same technologies that the others used. To reiterate them, I used Express and Node for the back end and React.js for the front end. For the database, we used SQL queries. As was touched on, we started the process by figuring out a rough idea of the schema that was needed to store in the database. Then we built out the front end to give us a tangible product to help with understanding what more needed to be done in the database schemas and the back end. The final stage was building out the back end to support feeding data from the front end and making calls to the database. I believe we followed the original plan fairly closely. We plan to have a React front end and a Node Express back end, and that's what we ended up with. There weren't many deviations. The styling may have evolved a bit as we went on, and as far as what we used to deploy the different components, we didn't have a very clear idea of how that would work, so that changed a bit from the original plan. The biggest challenge I faced throughout this project was learning how to work with SQL to query a database with Node and Express. I worked through that problem by reading the documentation and using trial and error until I was able to see the changes taking place in the MySQL workbench. Working with SQL databases was one thing that I learned and gained experience with from this project. I like the collaborative nature of the project and being able to see how others built their specific areas. I think this project also helped me learn more about software development in a team environment as opposed to just working alone in an individual project. That takes us to the conclusion of our demo presentation, where we'll look towards the future of the project. Where do things go from here? If we had more time, there would be a few things we could improve. We'd like to improve on the UI and make it look more professional. And we could improve the messaging feature to cause an automatic refresh when a message is received, similar to other instant messaging applications. Beyond that, we would like to just work on other updates that would improve the overall look and feel of the app. Will there be a commercial application? At this time, there are no plans for this to become a commercial application. We developed the app for this class specifically and don't plan to develop it further than the app that we've created. And that is our presentation. Thank you for watching.